of July 6, 2023. Are there any additions or corrections?
Austin Cole make a motion to approve the meeting minutes from July 6th, 2023.
Wired will second.
Motion by Austin Cool, second by Wyatt to approve meeting minutes. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Citizen input, seeing none. Old business, it's not really old business, but it sort of is because you did pass a resolution. The TAP grant that we applied for the path out here, we did not get it. So, yeah. So I do have a meeting set up with Mitch and Tammy next week for no charge. We're gonna tour the city a little bit and try and get a better game plan going for some of these grants that are out there, and she hasn't been here in years, so hopefully we'll have some more in the works, but we might have to pay for that path ourselves if we want it done sooner rather than later. All right, so at this point, I would like to have someone make a motion to move up item 8A, senior housing study, so we can have this gentleman take his 2-hour drive back home. Oh, yeah.
Only an hour and a half.
Hour and a half, all right, well, it sounds better at 2.
Cummings will make a motion to move the senior housing study 8A up to right now.
Right now. Wired will second.
8A, yeah, to, next,
To next,
above 5.
to right now.
To right now.
Yep.
No second?
I seconded it.
There, oh, I never heard it. I heard mumbling. All right, motion by Cummings, second by Wire to move up 8A before 5. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. You're on, and I'm your clicker.
Very good. Well, thank you, Mayor, thank you, council members, for taking some time this evening to allow me to share some information about senior housing market assessment. And this is always an interesting project. Certainly housing is a big issue in all respects. But we don't often work with communities that are looking solely at senior housing. So if
Get it?
So,
All right.
just quickly, the obligatory promo slide there about Cedar Corporation. We've got 4 offices. I'm out of the Green Bay office, about 95 employees, but we're full service company doing everything from planning, economic development, and engineering. So I've been there about, it's almost going on 3 years now. Time flies. So, but I was public sector for my entire career prior to that. But private sector, not too bad. There's some good things about it. Next slide.
Where am I? There we go.
Just a quick background, I think you all know or recall, but the reason this project got done was due to a grant that came from the Heartland Housing Initiative, which is led by Thrive and partnered with the Greater Watertown Community Foundation, Dodge and Jefferson counties. Collaborative effort really that leveraged their money into a WEDC capacity building grant so that they were able to award grants to communities to really look at what needs to be done beyond just a housing study, having a document saying you're short 1,500 houses or whatever it might be. How do you turn that more into action and getting something on the ground or much closer to it, and what does it really take? Obviously, implementation is difficult for many communities in terms of getting a plan done first, and it's based on capacity, budgets, and all those kinds of things. So we assume, I think, 7 communities that got funded out of this project appreciate the work and the efforts, and I think we're already starting to see some results from those communities and some of the projects we worked on. So next slide. Just quickly, some objectives of the project was really to look at and evaluate the market potential for senior housing in Waterloo, not only kind of citywide, but the broader market area. We also wanted to try and capture information about existing facilities, identify that market share, look at opportunities for senior housing in terms of sites, and then there's a number of kind of ancillary and complementary kinds of needs and topics that always come to mind. Next. I think we all know this, and you've probably seen a variety of statistics out there, but we have an aging population nationwide. This is not an issue unique to Waterloo or to Jefferson County or the state as a whole. Regardless of where you go, we've got an aging population and expect it to grow quite significantly, particularly over the next 10 to 20, 30 years as the baby boomers start, I don't know if aging out is the right term, that sounds very negative. As they continue to get wiser. Also, from a national perspective, and this is some data that's actually fairly old, but I think we're right in the midst of it, the demand versus supply of senior housing. Back up to about 2020, give or take, there was sort of an equilibrium with the number of people that needed or desired senior housing and the number of units that were available. But you can see that this gap is growing and will continue to grow for quite some time in terms of a shortage. So other communities are probably, again, in a similar situation and asking these kinds of questions. Next. Also just wanted to kind of look from a private sector perspective, at least nationally, there's a number of pieces of information out there in terms of housing investment trends. You know, ultimately you need developers to come in to do something, whether they can afford to with supply chain and labor issues and those kind of things is another matter. But you can see the variety of ups and downs on all of these types of housing. If you look at senior housing, it was starting to grow pretty big here before the pandemic, and then obviously there were some issues with senior living facilities in the pandemic in particular, so it dropped, but it is up on the uptick and is rising quite rapidly and rebounding. So we expect that, you know, within a few years you're going to be back to some of the peaks that we were around 2016. Next. So within the community itself, there are 5 senior housing facilities of various types, about 84 units total, and 13 vacancies out of those. I was quite surprised, but 10 of those vacancies are in one facility. I believe that's the senior housing apartments. I talked with virtually every one of these and tried to get some insights as to whether that's normal or something happened.
You talking the Highland House?
Yes.
Oh, really?
And because I think they've got, I can't remember the total number of units offhand, but I was quite surprised. But if you look at things again, kind of comparing to a national level, the national average for occupancy is 82.2%. Even with those vacancies, you're at about 85%, so you're at or just above what the national average is. Not sure what the issue is at the one facility, but if that can be fixed, then your numbers are much better. So we wanted to try and take a look kind of locally what that market might be, and to some degree, obviously, a lot of this is theoretical, but we think it makes some sense and there's some logic behind this. One of the things that I know, because I've got aging parents and others that do, is there's this desire and need. Ideally, they'd like to age in place, not leave the community that they're in most of the time. If they do have to go somewhere else, they'd like it to be in an area that's somewhat familiar. They know the lay of the land. They know the ways to get around. It's not too distant from family and folks that might take care of them. And so 30-minute drive is kind of, in our minds, as maybe the extent of that. Certainly could be further, but I think 30 minutes is probably a good gauge on that. So we used Esri's Business Analyst, and we generated a map and a series of circles, if you will, that represent 5 different time increments, 0 to 10, 10 to 15, 20, and so on. Now again, this isn't miles, this is drive time in minutes. So, next. Within that, we were able to use some existing data from Department of Health Services to capture the number and types of senior living facilities that exist within those different drive time areas. So in total, you've got 214 different facilities. 112 of them, or about half, are community-based residential facilities. Not a lot of pure nursing homes or hospices in there, or adult daycare. Most things are kind of pushed up to the CBRFs, residential care apartment complexes, and some adult family homes. And there are definitions in the document for those things. About 4,500 units based on that information and the capacity. So if we took a look just at capacity, there's obviously some clusters of denser senior housing facilities within that area. But the further you go out, the more facilities you get, because you really start reaching into some of the larger communities with facilities such as Watertown, Sun Prairie, and Madison, and start getting on that edge and into the city there. A good cluster of units in Fort Atkinson as well. One thing I wanted to, well, I'll wait on that. Go to the next slide. So in terms of demand, unfortunately, we know that the city of Waterloo is actually growing, and the projections, so about in 2040, about 200-person increase. So that's drastically different than some communities I'm working with your size further to the north. If you're in northeast Wisconsin, a lot of those small communities are stagnant or expected to decline. And many of those folks will likely go into the more urban areas and the larger cities. You're in a unique position geographically, being close to Madison, being between here and Milwaukee. We're seeing a lot of these smaller communities get growth as bedroom communities, obviously. Doesn't mean, to ignore the job opportunities that exist in the small communities, because there's plenty of those too. But growth is still continuing in this area. Unfortunately, they don't project the individual communities' age distribution. We've got, facts and snapshot in time. You can compare that to previous years. But the county level, they do. And this information shows that over the next, 15 years or so, out to 2040, we're looking at a net increase of about 7,130 people getting into the 65-plus category. You may notice that you've got some age categories here that have declines and negative numbers, and that's nothing unique, and there's no magic to it. That's simply representing one age group moving up and replacing that next age group. If you look at that table diagonally, 25 to 29-year-olds, 5,700 in 5 years, that group more or less moves to 30 to 34. It grows a little bit in this case. But that's why you've got the negatives, is because it's the preceding age groups that really define that. Nothing to be concerned about. So in terms of demand, again, using a business analyst and the drive time areas, we know that the distribution of population over that time period, we also can make some assumptions that looking at the potential, and we need to use conservative assumptions. Out of the number of folks that are turning 65, they're not all going to need things immediately or need to move to a different place immediately. Some may very well stay in their own homes. But we wanted to try and capture and make some assumptions that if folks did move into a facility, it might at least initially be 2 people in one facility, whether it's a senior apartment type of situation, independent living. Obviously, as you get older in the age spectrum and health issues, you're probably down to 1 person, if you will, and needing more medical care in different types of facilities. So we wanted to factor that in, at least initially. And looking at the area, we were going to assume that a 5% capture of that entire population would not be unreasonable. What I failed to put in the report, and I can edit this with some additional thinking on that. We've got the information on the number of facilities and the number of units within that area. So looking at individual communities and your share of that market, you've got about 2.5% of the total facilities that are out there, the 214 of them, and about 2% of the total units. So we could have just said, well, assuming everything stays the same and everything is equal, we'll use 2.5%. But you need to remember that things are kind of ramping up in terms of the total number of people turning 65 or older and getting into those older age groups. So we felt that that might end up being a little bit low. This is maybe more an exercise in setting a target or a potential high end, if you will. I think with proper marketing of the area, you've got a beautiful little community, and it's well positioned geographically. I think you could capture about 5% of that. So we wanted to kind of factor in some wiggle room. So based on those calculations, we would come up with about 150 total units over those 5 years. I think it might be better if I edit the report to kind of tie it back to that
I'd appreciate
percent.
that.
So that we've got a range of 75 to 150 units essentially, because I don't want anyone to hang their hat on just that number
Sure.
and come back
Appreciate
to me. So, but again, that's all potential, and it takes a lot of different things to happen to have that become reality. But I really do think marketing is going to be part of that. Next slide. The other thing I want to do is at least look at some potential out there. And I want to thank Everett for spending an afternoon with me. We had a nice afternoon after the Jefferson County Housing Summit. I was able to stick around. We went for a ride around the community to see it more and identified a number of potential sites, 9 of them. Some are greenfield, some are infill, if you will, and some would be adaptive reuse. If you go to the next slide. We've got individual maps of the specific parcels out there. Some are publicly owned, some are privately owned. Whether things actually happen on these, is really more of a local determinant based on land ownership and ability and desire to do that. But we think that these 9 sites held the most potential. And while you may have interest from the senior housing development companies looking to build senior apartments or assisted living or those kind of things, whether it's now or over time, we do make some suggestions that you also consider other alternative types. Again, the ideal is aging in place and staying in your own home and your own community. And so anything ranging from improvements to existing homes that allow people to live there longer would be great. Some people are not going to just want to go into a senior living apartment complex or even assisted living facility if there's some other options available. So thinking about age 55 plus communities, duplex condos, accessory dwelling units, we're starting to see a lot more conversations about the benefits of accessory dwelling units and basically living on site independently, assumably with family in the bigger house. Cottage style developments are becoming more popular. I'm not sure if any communities in this area have done those. I know City of Horicon
Somebody
is
talked
completing
about it.
one.
Yeah.
City of Oshkosh have done a few, and Appleton, but those are more urban settings similar to this, pocket neighborhoods they're called sometimes, but they can offer a lot of the same benefits. So we just express that you keep in mind that there are other alternatives than what you kind of see on the ground within your own community even. Next. So we've got a few recommendations in there and just keeping this brief. I think it'd be very beneficial if you did some amendments to your comprehensive plan, whether they're separate, just text amendments, or referencing this study, or if you do an update, maybe talk about those things a little more. The more you can integrate into the comprehensive plan about the thoughts, the goals, the desires of the community to address those needs, the better off you're going to be. Should there be some grant money out there someday to assist, it's certainly not going to hurt with that. On the mapping end, you may want to be more specific, identifying even broadly with some bubbles on your map where there might be some opportunities for future senior housing. And those things alone will certainly help folks in the development community not only get a better understanding of your community, but maybe more confidence that if they propose something, they're not gonna get jerked around. You know, the community said, you want this is what I'm presenting to you. So it helps in that sense. Certainly, like I mentioned, spend additional time reviewing some of those different examples of senior housing, different models. I think you're aware that even nowadays, most housing projects, regardless of what they're building, doesn't pencil out. And I'm going to assume the same here, given the supply chain, labor shortages, and everything else. So I think you need to go into this expecting that you may need to give incentives through a pay-go TIF formula and things of that nature for senior housing. Marketing, I talked about that before, but if this is something you're serious about, I think you need to spend some time looking at how you can better attract folks. And you already know you're gonna have about 7,000 more folks in the next 5 years, you know, within a 30-minute drive time. So you can really target some marketing and get the word out over time on the benefits of living here as a senior. Looking at your ordinances, see if there's anything that might be a barrier to development of affordable senior living, whether it's the traditional senior apartments or the assisted living or any one of those other options that we discussed. I know right now your city does not have provisions for accessory dwelling units. So that might be something you want to take a look at. There's a lot of information and models out there, but there's a lot of details to consider as well. Cottage style pocket neighborhoods, you know, I'm not sure your zoning regulations would allow for such a thing at this time, maybe through a planned unit development, but you might want to try and create some new districts that allow those kind of uses by right. doesn't have to be a conditional use and have a public hearing and those kinds of things. It avoids, some of the potential controversy on changes in land use. Next slide. Certainly looking at trying to make any new development, senior living, a little more friendly in terms of proximity. If there are opportunities for retail and housing and mixed use projects, it depends on the scale, obviously. But maybe there's some places where you can have senior living, plus you can have a coffee shop down on the first floor, or some other types of businesses that might cater to seniors. Not exclusively, but certainly, help fulfill their needs. I think regardless of what kind of housing and what kind of people you're trying to attract, the quality of life improvements should stay pretty high on the list. Seniors are looking for amenities a lot of times. They are more active, they want to stay active and be out and about. So you've got a great base to work from here in your city with the trail system. You got some beautiful parks. How do you connect those things? How do you ensure that new development, whether it's senior housing or regular housing, builds upon that? What other improvements can you make? You just mentioned a grant, sorry you didn't get that, but obviously, some of the trail extensions and expansion continue to be important here and part of your identity, I would argue. So keep building on that, use that to market is one of the assets. Just from a business standpoint, downtown, some of the commercial corridors, what can you do to target new businesses that can cater to a growing senior population? And then lastly, I think just stay on top of things, take a look at this regularly over the course of the next couple of years and maybe in about 3 years' time, certainly no longer than 5, I would say you might want to revisit this, kind of take stock, what happened, what didn't happen, how close were things going to that projection, have you done things to market, have you had any impact? And then lastly, I'd suggest you consult, communicate with the county ADRC. They're a great resource. There may be other resources out there that you can tap into, UW Extension and others, certainly amongst your peers. Talk with your other communities about what they're doing. I don't think there's any secrets out there, and I think, there's enough demand out there where if things are gonna happen, you're not stealing from someone else in that sense. Again, we only kind of set a target of maybe a 5% capture, so there's gonna be probably a lot more activity in this arena moving forward in the next 5+ years. So that's kind of the nuts and bolts of things there. I do have just a copy of the presentation here, so you have the short version, if you wouldn't mind passing those down.
Perfect.
And I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Could we potentially get this also just as a slide that we can make a hot link for people to review online for our website or something?
Yep, actually, I just left the PowerPoint on your desktop there, so you
Is it
can
on
print the PDF and do that. I don't think anything I said.
Any
No,
secret tip?
I'll hold off on doing that because I'm probably gonna make a couple of edits to
And
that.
that's fine.
Yeah, that aren't in your packet
Sure,
there at least.
edit
But I'd like to maybe enhance a little bit on that 5% and make that a range.
Yes, please,
So-
because I'd like to share this with, we went through it a little bit on the CDA on Tuesday,
Mhm.
but it was just so much to consume, we really didn't get a lot into it, Everett just gave us a quick rundown.
Yeah.
But this just kind of dives right in, and then if you want the detail,
It's
it's in there too, but.
Yeah.
And
And
same
sorry I
with the
couldn't be
plan.
here Tuesday, I had another commitment
That's all right,
nearby,
you
but,
didn't need to be here twice,
hard to
it's
do
okay.
two meetings in one night
No,
with the distance.
That's
but
all right, we can
They
definitely.
can watch it
share.
online.
That's
There
right.
you go.
Yeah,
But,
I'll do that right away.
Perfect.
So,
Thank you.
Has anybody got any questions? Alrighty, yeah, if you wanna send us that update, that would be fantastic.
Very good, I'll see if I can't shoot that out tomorrow, I'll get a final cleaned up version of the document,
Great.
those things over to Everett, and then you can post the entire thing if you
Wonderful.
want. Just lastly, under this grant program, most of the activity was to end at the end of June here. Obviously, some meetings are trickling into July, but we need to prepare a report and send that to WEDC, the state, I think by the end of September, if I recall. So one thing I'm going to do is I'm likely gonna follow up with you. I'll work
Okay.
through Everett, but I'm gonna check in a month and just kind of see, well, what have you guys done?
Okay.
What have you done with the study? Has it been shared? Have you had any interest? Have you had conversations? Are you moving towards implementing any of these things or even talking about it? Because again, the state's gonna be very interested to know the dynamics of what does it take to move from housing study to,
Implementation.
foundations on the ground.
Land, the answer is land.
Land, money, yeah, I mean, there's a myriad of things, and the neat thing is the variety of projects that we're working on under this program are hitting a lot of different aspects of
Yeah.
that. Years of senior housing, we had City of Lake Mills, the focus is their zoning ordinance on how they make changes that would, better allow for affordable housing, because they've got a fair amount of restrictions. We're working with Village of Kokoski by the Horicon Marsh on a cottage-style development, and had to do some market assessments, and also we got some environmental work done. The village owns the site, but we need to make sure it's clear and good to build on, so the grant helped cover some of those things. So we're learning a little bit as we go along, but my intent is that once we get that report done, I would love to share that just with all the communities that worked under the grant, so you can kind of see some of the other things that were being done. And I'll work with Deb, and I'm sure she'll come up with some ways to share
Yeah,
that
she was
too.
here Tuesday too.
That would be awesome.
Yeah.
Very good. You're not in this alone. That's the idea. So, thank you for the time.
Eric, thank you
Appreciate
very,
it.
very
If you got other
much.
questions, feel free to reach out.
Wonderful.
Take care.
Thank you.
Safe travels.
All right, meeting summary since last council, Water and Light, 7-Eleven, Tim?
We have an ordinance coming before the council later on, and we're gonna work on an employee handbook.
All right. CDA,
We had a presentation from Thrive, which was very informative. Obviously just went through the senior housing study, and then we also approved Everett's NMC contract renewal.
all right, thank you. Tim, Finance and Personnel earlier this evening.
We'll be sending to council a recommendation on a bid to repair the water truck rails.
That'll be the next meeting?
That's the next meeting.
Nope,
Is
it's
it on here?
It's on
It's on
here.
seven.
782.
Ah, there you
There it
are.
is.
It is there.
And we talked about the
I already
budget,
marked
how we're gonna proceed forward with the 2024 budget.
it. Got it. Lots of dates coming up. All right, thank you. Consent agenda items for May are in your packet. Any questions, concerns? Or we move on?
Cummins will make a motion to approve the consent agenda items.
Griffin, second.
Motion by Cummings, second by Griffin to approve consent agenda items. All in favor?
Aye.
Both? Motion carried. All right, to the fun stuff, finance, insurance and personnel. Tim, you are on.
Thomas make a motion to approve the June 2023 financial statements. Payroll in the amount of $135,699.28. General disbursements in the amount of $227,252.54, and the clerk treasurer's report, which is in file at City Hall.
Cummings will second.
Motion by Thomas, second by Cummings to approve the June financial statements, payroll, general disbursements, and treasurer's report. Roll call.
Cummings, yes.
Austin Cooley, yes.
Charles Poole, yes.
Griffin, yes.
Thomas, yes.
White, yes.
Motion carried. Waterloo Fire Department repairs to the water truck. Yes, everybody said yes.
Yep, I'm just making sure I count them right.
Okay, okay. Well, I'm
Sorry.
short,
I know, that's, yeah, I'm just, sorry.
Did you call her short?
a little bit. Yep.
This comes with a recommendation from finance. The fire department's requesting to repair the frame rail on their tender 95. Thomas make a motion to approve the repairs by Fire Service, Inc. in the amount of $835,
Not to exceed.
not to exceed, with
Cummings.
the funds coming from their maintenance account.
All right, now you can talk.
Cummings will sign.
There we go. Motion by Thomas, second by Cummings to approve the repairs to the water truck to Fire Service, Inc. Funds not to exceed $6,835, maintenance account. Roll call.
Cummings, yes.
Austin Cool, yes.
Truesdale, yes.
Griffin, yes.
Thomas, yes.
Ware, yes.
Motion carried. Waterloo Water and Light, are you taking that, Barry?
I can.
Well, there you go. Town and Country Construction Update.
It's just, you have information in your packet that they're moving along. The first building they started, they got all the walls all up. They're gonna start working on the roofing down there. They're moving forward. We don't really have they seem to be doing well.
So this whole thing is supposed to be done in 25. It takes this long to build all of this stuff?
800 days they have.
800 days?
800 days they have for completion. Because they have to do it in steps, because the sewer has to continue to flow through the sewer plant.
Sure,
So they'll do it in steps. That's what
but
they're
of
doing.
this 800 days, is any of it because of not being able to get equipment? Is that
Not
like a
yet.
part of it?
That's just part of it. It's incorporated in the 800
Okay.
days, that's why they have 800 days.
Yeah,
So as of now, they're moving along.
good,
So, on schedule, if you will.
Yep.
okay, good. All right, and then what do we do? That's the update, and then the application for payment?
Yep, you have an application for payment in there, we need approval for it, for the mayor to sign, so we can send it. It's been vetted again, this is the same as we did
Yep.
last month, I think it was. And you'll continue to get these throughout the projects.
Right.
Town and Country vets them, goes over them all, sends them to us to get approval, then Town and Country sends it to USDA, the USDA sends it back to Town and Country,
Yeah.
and tells us to pay Portson.
So what am I paying? There's an awful lot of lines. There's balance to finish, so that's not what we're doing. So what's the actual amount for this particular one? Is it
It should be
the
the
work
this
completed and
request.
stored materials?
641, 189,
Where?
47.
Yep.
Turn some more pages, keep going. All right, that's my problem.
Column D on.
This sheet, okay, all right.
This claim it says on top there.
This claim, got it. So 641, 189, 47, got it. Okay, thank you.
Cool, so motion. Ware will second.
Motion by Charlie Cool, second by Wire to approve the payment for the Waterloo utilities, $641,189.47. Roll call.
Cummings, yes.
Austin Cool, yes.
Truesdale, yes.
Griffin, yes.
Thomas, yes.
Ware, yes.
Motion carried. Thank you. City Waterloo project tracking budget and funding allocations for the wastewater remodel.
So that's when we looked at, but that shows you all of it.
Okay, so that's just all a part of it, there's nothing really to it.
So you also have another thing on it that they're asking for another payment, application payment.
Okay.
So
That was that first sheet that we looked at right here.
you have, the second one will be for the 542, 292, 47.
Man,
So 542 is what's due on this one?
Oh, yeah, 542.
This one now.
247.
We're on to our
yeah,
second one
that's,
now.
right, that's
Yep.
the page I was on originally.
Yes.
Okay, so this one is the 542, 292, 47. All right. Citywide project tracking budget and funding allocation. So, do we, I know this was kind of confusing at the last meeting, it's like,
Okay, first we're gonna take they ask for a payment,
right?
then it goes through the course of the people that have to approve it, and then we need approval to actually pay it. So that was the first one, came back already, and we're gonna pay. This is the second one where we're sending it to get approval.
So this
and then,
542, we're sending for approval.
They just submitted it to us.
Okay,
So then we have to get it, the Ben vetted it, but it has to go through the course. The last one we just did went through the course, and we're gonna pay it.
Got
This
it.
one is starting the course.
This is starting.
so
And it's
we're
gonna continue like this.
authorizing,
Mm-hmm.
The payment.
Authorization.
Authorization.
This is the authorization.
and then next month we'll get this back.
Authorization to request.
Okay,
However you wanna look at it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
everybody understand that one?
Yep.
Yep.
yeah, because we're not physically paying this one now.
To move this.
We're just-
Right,
We're gonna approve some.
moving it, got it.
And then
got
it's
it.
gonna
I
come
knew there
back,
was
and then
something
we're
moving.
gonna approve it again.
Yeah.
To pay.
And you'll have another one.
And you'll have
that'll be
another
submitted.
And then
request.
we'll have another
It's
one,
gonna
so that's,
continue like
it's just like,
this.
good,
Yes.
got it, got it, got it.
Is that
It's
right?
like lethargic by a month.
Yeah.
Yes.
I will motion to
Cummings will second.
Motion
The
by
tracking budget.
Charlie Cool, motion by Charlie, second by Cummings. Hang on, gotta get on the right line here. To approve, the budget allocations for, sending off the, however I wanna say that.
Wastewater remodel.
Thank you, wastewater amount, $542,292.47 for the authorization. Make sure I say that right. Roll call.
Cummings, yes.
Austin Cool, yes.
Charles Cole, yes.
Griffin, yes.
Thomas, yes.
Wired? Yes.
Motion carried. All right, update to ordinance 340-2.
I'll take this one too. This was also approval for the amount that I can pay without approval. We upped it to $25,000. After looking at it from our committee, the commissioners, that was the amount that the state statute says I can. So when we sent it to Bill for wording, he said, just put it per state statute, so you don't have to keep coming back when the state ups that amount.
Right,
He said, just put it per state statute. He wrote it out, and that's what we're asking for
right,
approval.
which is what I was kind of trying to do with
Yes.
the fire
Yep.
department.
Yep,
Can we
that's
just
what we're doing
reference that,
first.
so you don't have to keep doing it? Perfect. All right, so we will send this through then with that change. All right,
Thomas, make a motion to update ordinance 340-2.
-2.
Wired will second.
Motion by Tom, second by Wire to approve the update to ordinance 340-2. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. All right, senior housing, we are done. Class A liquor license. So, is this the BP?
Sounds like it.
Yes, it
When I
is.
looked
This
it
is
up,
like the
the
third or
address.
fourth version of somebody buying it?
Yeah, I just got, sold again. We had
Thanks,
approved their,
Barry.
we had approved their tobacco license previously, but not, they told us they didn't want liquor. Then they came and said they wanted liquor,
No,
so
they want
we went
liquor.
through the process.
Not a problem. Okay,
Austin Cool make a motion to approve the Class A beer liquor and cider license and tobacco license for the license period 7/1/23 to 6/30/24 for Handy Spot, or is it Hand Spot?
hand spot on here, that's
It's
handy.
supposed to be- no, it's already
Handy.
For Handy Spot.
Handy spot.
Cummings will second.
Motion by Austin Cool, second by Cummings to approve the license for Handy Spot, AKA BP. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. All right, so due to the change of alders with Ms. Pets leaving last time, I would like to make a change to the planning commission, because Jeannie was on an awful lot of committees, and Charlie's very much in tune with what's been going on, so we'll readdress this again in April, after the next election. So I just need your approval to put Charlie on the planning commission till April.
Wired will move to approve to appoint Charles Cool to the planning commission to replace a vacancy left by Pets.
Cummings will second.
Motion by Ware, second by Cummings to approve appointing Charlie Cool to the planning commission. All in favor? Opposed?
Thanks, Charlie.
Thanks, Charlie. Yes, you can abstain, that's fine. All right, resolution 2023-24. I asked to have this on here. This is something else I'm working on. So, we had $80,000 in the budget. This thing came back at $58,485. Plus, there's also $2,500 worth of engineering fees. So total, it came to $60,985, which gives us $19,000 in savings. So I've been going through some of Kunkel's engineering bills, because they're kind of a little bit all over the place. And whenever we talk about, woo, we just saved money, we don't really remember there's engineering costs that have to go in there too. So it just looks like there's this good amount. So when Chad was talking about, let's get this new skid loader and move money around, he'll still be fine. But I just wanna make sure that we have the actual numbers so we know exactly what we're talking about, what we really saved. So Mitch is from now on going to be giving us a contract basically per job, so that we sign it and we know exactly what it is, because Lana's getting these bills and they're kind of all over the place, and Chad's budget is through the roof. So I'm going through the last 6 months of bills and making sure things are put in the right spot. The goofy thing we have, like Hendrick Street, we're not doing it until 2025. We've been doing engineering on it for 2 years. And we've got utilities in there, and utilities doesn't pay it till the job is done. So that money's gotta come out and get, assigned or, put in a budget so we know exactly what we have to build the utilities for down the road. And the TAP grant, for example, there was like a $1,200 bill for that. We didn't get the grant. $1,200 is gone. So I'm not sure exactly where we're gonna take that out of, if it's gonna come out of Chad's or PATH or the park, I don't know, so we'll have
Why
to have
is there a
that.
cost for that?
Because it's their cost to put the grant package together. See, you
Okay,
didn't
I
know all that.
nope, I'm-
You gotta pay somebody to do the work.
Correct, so the contract
I
right
realize
now,
that.
so I know this is kind of a long story, but I want you all to understand what's going on. So the contract we have with Kunkel's from 2012. Apparently, they sent us a new price list in 2018, which we have no idea where it is. At this point, it doesn't matter. So he's gonna send us a new one. And there is a breakdown in there that I'll share with you guys so everybody can see it. But every time we pick up the phone and say, oh, ask engineering this or ask the attorney that, we're doing dollar signs.
You can charge.
Oh yeah, none of it's free.
Even if
However,
you send a text or anything, you still get
Yeah,
charged.
yeah. So, but having said that, we have a tour coming up that Tammy, the lady that does the grants, and Mitch, they're going to come here for free. He already told me he's not gonna bill us for that. So we're doing that next week. We're gonna tour the city, kind of give her a lay of the land. It's been a long time since she's been here, so that she has a better idea how to do some of these grants and ask questions, give us a better checklist. Because we had to sign off on a resolution here just like a month ago. Well, that should have been part of our packet to begin with.
Okay.
Didn't know that, learning curve. Hopefully she's not billing me for that. But then we were looking at the parking lot back here too. So there's potential for some grants that we can get back here because we're, sliding into the river. So we got some issues. So I asked for this to be on here because I want all of these things to be front and center so that you can see exactly what we did, how much did we save, good stuff.
Ideally, any request for money for engineering or for construction would be inclusive or also include engineering services.
Correct. But the numbers we've been looking at, so when you first look at
They're
this,
bid
you're like,
numbers.
woo! Yeah. Well, from the bid number, right. But that is just the actual project. Engineering's a whole nother
Yeah,
line.
that doesn't-
And some of these
that doesn't
invoices are
include
split
that.
up into 3 items.
I
There's
know.
drawings, there's inspections, and then there's something else, can't remember what it was. So, Lana's asking a lot of good questions. Chad's freaking out, going, okay, I had a budget of 5,000, we got 22,000 in there. Yeah, that's not right. So, we'll probably have to have some more conversations at finance, how we're gonna do this, make up a new code, whatever we have to do to preserve some of these things, so.
This came up on Adams Street, I think, because all of a sudden we were getting engineering that wasn't kind of included in the process when we were trying to
First
figure out
doing it.
where the money's
Yeah,
coming
yeah.
from.
Yeah, Lana's asking a lot of good questions, and it's the right thing to do, and Mike would have gotten there had he stayed, but, so we're just kind of cleaning up as we go, so. Having said all of that, our total was $60,985, so we still did have a savings. And going forward, Chad said he's gonna do these bids himself. This is the first time in a long time that we've done this, so he knows going forward, when he starts to pick out these roads, he can kind of get an idea from Mitch what we're looking at, but we're not gonna have them prepare anything, and he'll go out and send out the bids, so we'll save time and money on that too.
You might save money.
Okay. I have a feeling Jean will be involved, but, okay. All right, so having said all of that, I need approval for resolution 2023-24, awarding the contract to, where the heck?
Thunder Road LLC.
Thunder, there we go, Thunder Road. Everybody know.
Cummings will make a motion to approve the resolution 2023-24 awarding pavement maintenance contract to Thunder Road LLC.
Austin Poole, second.
Motion by Cummings, second by Austin Poole to approve resolution 2023-24. Roll call.
Cummings, yes.
Austin Poole, yes.
Charles Poole, yes.
Griffin, yes.
Thomas, yes.
Weird, yes.
Yay, motion carried. All right, final thing, and we're gonna get you out of here by 8 o'clock.
Love it.
Ward 4-5 appointment to fill a council vacancy. We do only have one applicant, so it's entirely up to you. If there's any reason you want to go into closed session, if we want to talk openly and freely, your choice. We don't have to, no, because there's nobody else here.
Right.
So we're perfectly fine. So, but we put it on there just in case
Yep.
somebody else shows
Yeah.
up or whatever, so. All right.
I will move to approve.
Oh, we don't even want to talk about it? We're just gonna
I
approve
don't
it?
wanna talk about it.
Well, are you the applicant? Welcome.
Yes, applicant would be Jody.
Would be
Jody.
Yes,
Okay.
she is in the right district, life is good, so she does have, a little thing that she filled out,
I will
yes.
second.
Oh, okay. Motion by White and second by
I love it.
Austin Cool, or sorry, Charlie Cool, wrong Cool. Charlie Cool, to approve Jody. Does anybody have any questions for Jody?
Does she have any questions?
Do you have
Yeah,
any
do you have
questions?
any questions for us?
No, you can't. say
Other
that.
than you have to bring a sweater.
Yeah, I brought my sweater. No, I know I stepped over today, so I have a lot of questions
Yeah,
answered
she-
today.
All right. So
She did have some
she-
TID and tip questions and other
Yeah.
things, so we talked to her about it also. I would
Alright.
highly recommend her myself.
All right, so she'll be obviously on city council, public works, CDA, Charlie's taking the planning commission, and admin review appeals board, which never meets, so,
Just never mind.
yeah, so, there we go.
And if you ever need anything, we're all here to support you.
And she-
Because
she-
guess what? I was new at one point.
Right, and I
We all
told
were.
her, I said, you're in the best area, because Richard will let you
Because
know
you're
what you're
last,
supposed to
and so
say.
you don't get to make mistakes in the beginning like I did. I would look at Rich and he would be like, and I'm like, what do I say?
I suppose, what am I supposed to say here? No, no.
Yes, no, I don't know.
We made-
All right.
We may chuckle. a
Yeah.
little bit.
We try and,
It's fine.
we'll point out.
I
when
think
we make
Jeannie keeps
mistakes.
the recordings just so she can laugh back at what I used to say, so it's really
Thanks, I
fine.
might sell them on the black market.
Hey, you can.
All right, she's gotta get out of here. All in favor?
Alright.
Opposed? Nobody ever. We'll see you at the next meeting. Yeah. So she's got your email address, that's how we give everybody info, so you know what's going on.
Yeah, we'll get her set up and everything.
Fantastic.
Congratulations and welcome.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
I'll make a motion over.
There we go.
Second.
Woo, I think the Cools got you. He started first. All right, the Cools said we're adjourning. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried.
This was good. You guys are awesome.
Jody,
Yeah, actually got out of here pretty good. All right, you can sign.
You can sign those, because we'll bury that.
You'll probably come back tomorrow. That's fine, 'cause